Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am going to put together a really quick spread in my traveler's notebook inspired by and using the self-care digital kit from Nelly and Clem. But before we get started, I want to show you how I made this full-size traveler's notebook page using one of the 3x4 cards. Now this is a PDF and I've opened it up in Photoshop. Some of the newer Nelly and Clem kits have individual PNG files, and you can do the exact same process with the PNG file as I'm going to do here with this PDF, but this is an older set and it doesn't have individual PNG files, so I'm just going to use the PDF. So all I do is I start with the crop tool. Now the kind of caveat with enlarging things like this is you need to be a little bit careful with how much bigger you make them, and it really does depend on the source file that you're starting with, because sometimes when you enlarge things too much or the file isn't sort of high quality enough to start off with, it can look a little blurry or pixelated when you enlarge it. So you'll just have to try with your own individual files, but these ones work just fine. Now I'm going to change the width of my crop tool to 4¼ inches. I don't need to worry about the height, but the width is what I'm going to work with. That's the width of my individual traveler's notebook page. And I'm just going to drag out my crop selection over the 3x4 card and hit enter. So now we have, it's still a 3x4 card, but it's about 4¼ inches in width. I need to make it 8¼ inches in height. Now the first thing I'm going to go is do my layers. So I've got layer 1. I need to make sure this is not a background layer. If it is a background layer and it looks like this, you need to double click the background layer and turn it into an individual layer. You can rename that as you want to. And then I'm going to go up to File and I'm going to go Canvas Size. Now this is not going to stretch out this shape. It's going to increase the size of the canvas that is sitting behind my image here. So you can see it's 4¼ inches wide. I need it to be 8¼ inches high. I don't mind if this is in the middle, and you'll see why in 1 second. Because I've made this an individual layer, I can move it up and down. It's not a problem. So if I just skip back a bit, what happens if you don't make this an individual layer is, and if you do the canvas enlargement with the background, you'll see it adds these white bars top and bottom, and you can't move anything. So that's why you need to make it an individual layer before you go ahead and adjust the canvas size. So let's get back to where I was. So now you can move, because this has got sort of the main focal point of the card, you can leave it in the center. I'm going to move mine up just a little bit towards the top, and then we've got this kind of blank area top and bottom. Now I find the Nelly and Clem cards are usually pretty ideal for doing this, because it's a really simple process to fill in this card when it is a single solid color like this. When it's a pattern, it's going to be a little bit more obvious that you've enlarged things, so I would stick to single color backgrounds. But I'm just going to grab my marquee tool. I'm using the Command T or transform tool, and I'm going to drag this up to the top. Hit enter and then deselect, and then repeat that process at the bottom. And there we go. Now we have a 3x4 card that is sized to a traveler's notebook page, and I can go ahead and print this along with the other little elements that I need for my spread. So the first thing that I'm going to do to actually put this spread together is trim everything out. And I've got to say, I thought since there was having so few elements on this page, it would just be a really quick job to fussy cut them out. You can see here I've also printed my photos onto the same paper. I've used Canon matte photo paper for these printables, so it printed my photos beautifully on there as well. Most of the stuff is super easy to trim out with my paper trimmer, but I've got 4 of these little kind of shape elements. And instead of printing and cutting them on my Silhouette or my Cricut, I decided I would fussy cut these ones by hand. So I'm going to save you watching me do that, because it did take me a little bit of time, especially that little self-care bottle there. I mean, super cute, but I won't make that mistake again. I know why I love having my machines do the cutting for me. It's because I am not a fan of fussy cutting. I've got everything out and ready to go, and the one other thing that I want to create for this page is an envelope to hold my little journaling card. I want to be able to pull the journaling card in and out of some sort of pocket. I decided an envelope would work well. I've used my little envelope template app to get the measurements, so I needed a 6x6 bit of paper, and my first punch was going to be at 2 inches. This paper from Pink Fresh Studio was perfect for this page, all about self-care, the exact right colors. I really wanted to use my mini envelope punch board just because it makes things a little bit more delicate. You can see these huge divots out of the corners here when I use the full-size envelope maker, and I'm going to have to do a little bit of kind of manipulation now, but the 6x6 paper didn't really fit properly on my mini envelope maker, so I had to use the full-size board. So it ends up with this kind of odd shape, so I'm going to do a little bit of trimming. I just marked the bigger flap where it intersected the smaller ones, and then trimmed that off with my paper trimmer there, so I get that nice straight edge. There was a little bit of a tear in there, but my bigger flap here is too large. It's not going to fit on the actual like half of the traveler's notebook page. So what I've gone ahead and done is just trimmed it down. So I've trimmed it straight across the top of where those smaller flaps are, and I've got 2 pieces now, and I'm going to work out how I can best combine them to mimic an envelope shape while still staying on one side of the page. And I decided that the best way to do that was to just trim the corner off. So it's going to end up being a little bit free-handed, but it still looks like an envelope. You can see when I put it back together. I'm going to tuck this piece that I cut off underneath the main portion of the envelope, and I know I should have done it with the red facing, but actually I really wanted to see this pattern paper, so I just flipped it over. So it kind of served 2 purposes. You can see now the envelope fits on my page nicely, but also I get to see that beautiful pink and red pattern paper rather than that red kind of pattern, which would have been pretty overwhelming for the page. Now really all I have left to do is just glue everything down. I told you this was going to be a simple page. I've got 4 little photos. They're about 1.5 inches square. If you haven't seen my video before about how I plan digital pages, I will leave that linked for you up here. That's how I know what size I want my photos. I pretty much know the size for everything and where everything's going to go before I print everything out. I'm not wasting any of my precious paper by printing out die cuts that I'm not going to end up using. And you saw I managed to print all of my photos and all of my elements for this page on one A4 sheet of paper. So it's a brilliant little planning scheme when you're doing digital kind of hybrid pages like this. So I knew exactly where my photos were going. I was just going to leave a little gap at the top because it's kind of 2 separate events on this self-care Sunday. We went for a lovely walk with Lily, and then I had a bit of a bath with some candles and a face mask, and it was glorious. So I've kind of split those 2 up to indicate the 2 separate events. Now on the left hand page, I've gone ahead and added a couple extra hearts just to bring some of that color over from the right. Balances things out with all that pink. I've added some tiny little enamel hearts from Doodlebug Designs to indicate the check boxes on my journaling card for which activities I took part in. I've added a few of the little white ones over on the left hand side again to balance out some of that color. And that is this page all done. I told you it would be a super fast one. As always, I will link the Nelly and Clem store down below if you feel like having a bit of a self-care Sunday for yourself and then documenting it afterwards. Hey, thanks for watching today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you again really soon. Bye!